Hey guys, this is Daniel with PwnCNC, and I'm here. We're going to be installing our ATC system onto my Shapeoko 5. Now, of course, being that this is a Shapeoko 5, the controller cannot support a full automatic tool changer. However, we're going to use our little button, our MTC button, a manual tool change button, to make this setup super easy. Bit changes will take a couple of seconds, and you're back up in carving again. Quick and easy. So let's review some of the components that we need to install for our new system. I do already have the 80mm mount spindle mount mounted onto my Shapeoko 5 machine. I've got the adapter plate and all that stuff. It's all ready to go. I just need to drop this in. This guy here is our ATC motor. It is rather heavy. We'll put the weight down below. All of our ATC motors come with the cool connectors already attached. It's included in the price. We have a tool change air inlet, a air seal, and a dust motor power. This is, if you're familiar with our spindle kits, this is very similar. This is an H20 cable receiver. On the other side, we've got a GX16. This is for the motor sensors. It provides there's a couple of proximity sensors right about in this silver section right down here, pointed in a few ways so that it can capture and detect where the positioning of our drawbar. Let's jump over to some of the other components. All of our spindle systems and ATC systems require a VFD, and that's what I've got here. This is going to be for a 110. That's what I've got. That's what I'm installing on my Shapeoko 5 is a 110 volt, 1.5 kilowatt ATC motor. Next to it, we've got our pneumatics enclosure. This guy is basically has a couple of solenoids, a couple of relays, and basically the ins and outs for our air control. All right, gotta love my wonderful wiring here. I've got wires everywhere here. So on the ATC motor, we will require an air compressor. I've got a California Air Tools compressor here. It's just a simple 10-gallon compressor. It keeps it just enough to make sure everything's working right. Next up, we have a chiller. This is just our CW3000 chiller. It's the basic chiller that we offer. It's non-refrigerated, so you basically pour in some distilled water in here, and it will circulate through a radiator system and a fan system to go in and out. All of our ATC motors are metalworking motors, 4-pole motors with ceramic bearings. You'll need a chiller, you'll need an air compressor, and of course, if you've got one of our dust boots or someone else's, you will need a shop vac or a dust collector. So all of our ATC systems will come with a couple of hoses. One that goes for your tool change. I believe it's wrapped in a blue Velcro. The green Velcro is another tube which provides our air seal and our dust ports on the top of the motor. We also have our air inlet. This is going to be a larger motor or larger tube with a quick disconnect, so you can just plug it right in and then plug it right into the side of the pneumatics enclosure. We have a run safety port cable. So we will need this one. This is going to be run between so that the button, so that our manual override button, that's this guy right here, so that this does not work when the VFD is in run mode, when it's actually running. So that's what this little guy is for safety. Then of course we've got our ATC button. This is our handheld. This is the one that's included with your system. But we do have an upgrade option for that, and I've got the upgrade option here. This is basically a foot pedal, so that you can either use the MTC button or a foot pedal depending on your needs. It also comes with a couple of wrenches. Our kits for a limited time do come with as a free gift a couple bits from IDC Woodworking, a couple bits from Cadence Manufacturing. These are the Jenny bits. A couple bits from One CNC. We love each of these companies. They're very good to their customers, and we are happy to be partnered with them for this. Our ATC by default does come with 4 ISO 20 collets, and then a couple of 1/4 inch collets, a 1/2 inch collet, and an 1/8 inch collet. Next, we've got the tubing. I went with the super thane. This is what's recommended. This is the super thane. It's flexible enough for a cable chain, and it's also strong enough where it won't pinch off your flow very quickly. So that's a good option. Then, of course, we've got the tube side cool connectors. These are included with the spindle kit. Next, since I'm going with, I've got all 6 bits here, I opted to go ahead and add a couple more ISO tool holders. So we've got, 5 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch bit that's included with the kit. So what I would recommend is get 3 more for a total of 5. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then of course a couple more tool holders, and that will give you enough to cover all of what you've got here. And then of course this guy. So these things are extra. This is all included with your ATC kit. So I have got a 5mm hex wrench here. We've got our ATC. What I like to do is have the cool connectors on either side of the motor. We're going to lower our Z carriage down as far as it'll go. Remove our little stock here. And I like to place the spindle. This thing's very heavy. I like to lower it all the way down to the bottom, then lower lower the Z all the way down to the as low as it can go, then drop the spindle right into place, let it sit right on the bed, line it up left to right here, and then go ahead and tighten everything down. Now, we're going to raise our Z back up all the way. And you'll notice that gives plenty of room down here below the bottom of the carriage, where the Z bit should stick out just a bit. One of our collet holders, it's going to sit right about right there, which means we've got about a 1/2 inch or so to the bottom of here. Doesn't allow for a lot of bits. If you put in like a 1 inch or 1.5 inch bit, it will stick down into your Z capacity. So if that's the case, and that is unacceptable for you, go ahead and take take a block, put it down, and then drop the Z. So let me actually demonstrate that. So lower the Z all the way back down. Loosen up your spindle. So lift up that spindle, raise it up, and that will give you that'll give you a rough, this is a 3/4 inch thick material, so that'll give you about 1 inch from the bottom of the tool holder to the bit. So it'll take up the least amount of space, basically. And of course, you can thicken that up and raise that up, but I'm going to call this good. All right. Now, let's go ahead and raise that up. There we go. Now you notice the bottom of the spindle is well above the bottom of the thing, and that should give us roughly about 1 inch or so to the bottom of the carriage, which means you could put some pretty thick material there, depending on your carve that you're going to want to do. Now that we've got that in place, we need to run a couple more wires. So you'll probably notice that I have already run the main spindle cable through the supplied cable chain. I think we're going to have to work on a replacement for this. It would be really nice if this was a bit larger so that we can install both our coolant lines, our air lines, and the spindle cable. But for now, I've only got the spindle cable plugged into it, and we'll just plug that up now. On our typical ATC installation, we will be using this motor sensor port, this motor sensor cable. This basically tells the CNC controller the status of the tool holders and the drawbar. But since we're using manual, since the CNC controller can't recognize ATCs, it can't use this. So we're actually not going to use this motor sensor cable at this time. When we install this tool holder in here, we will be able to do a manual inspection and a visual inspection to confirm that the tool holder is properly in the spindle. So these are the automatic sensors. The manual sensors are your own eyes. So we're not going to worry about that sensor, but we are going to keep that all kind of together. To go from our motor to our equipment in the back, we're going to take the, what is this? This is the blue Velcro strapped tube. I'm going to throw one side over the edge there. And we're going to take the other side and just pop it right into the center port. We're going to put that right into the center port here. Next, we're going to take our other wire. We're going to throw that over the edge. We'll clean it up later. We're going to make sure that both of those tubes into the two different ports that are up on top. Here we go. So now we got all our ports, all our wires all together. Next, we're going to take our coolant tube. So this is the super thing. I'm going to throw it across the garage here. And I'm going to take, all right, so what I've got here is I've got both tube connectors, and I'm actually going to, I should have grabbed some wrenches while I was at it. But I'm going to take one of the cool connectors and the nut. So I've unscrewed the nut from that. Press the nut onto the super thing, just a little bit, maybe an inch, a half inch or so. Press, this is going to be the harder part, and you may need to heat up, maybe have a heat gun and heat up the end of that super thing just a little bit. But I'm just going to brute force it. So I'm going to press it right onto that little half-inch nipple right there. Then I'm going to bring that nut into place. It's twisting my tube, but that's not a problem. What it's doing is it's tightening down onto that tube so that it does not release. So we've got one side on. I'm just going to leave, I've just got my whole tube. I haven't cut anything yet. I'm just going to leave the tube in one piece. I'm just going to put the coolant connectors, these cool connectors, onto either end of the tube, and I'll deal with cutting the tube here in a minute. Now, just like the rest of the tubing, I'm just going to throw that over the top. Right on the back, I'll deal with that in a minute. So it does not matter which is in and which is out according to the motor. So I'm just going to take both of the tubes on the tube. There we go, we're all set. And now I can basically have my wiring bundle that I can then either Velcro or do whatever to try to make that a little easier. So I'm not going to cut any of these tubes. I will cut the clear tubes in half so that we can put them into the chiller. But these black tubes, I'm going to leave them just as long as they are, just in case I want to come back with some larger cable chains, put everything in a cable chain, which I probably will. Okay, so I'm going to figure out which one is my, there it is. This one is my tool. So I'm just going to leave it right back here. I'm just going to leave it hanging. It doesn't matter. My pneumatics enclosure. And on the left side is the tool dust. So we're going to put this line. This is the one that's going into the middle. This is the one that's going into the middle of the motor. This is our tool. This is the one that gets the high pressure, the 90 psi, in order to trigger that drawbar. The other one only needs roughly 20 or 30 psi, not much. It's going to go into the dust port. So I'm going to put that into the dust port. So if you can see it from here, we've got the tool port and we've got the dust port down here. There isn't a third port and a third regulator down here. So this third one is for something additional. You can use it if you need to, if you have something that's pneumatically controlled and would like to do that. But in an MTC setup, this additional, it's pretty much useless. There's no way to manually trigger this additional port. The MTC button only triggers the dust and tool. There's nothing to trigger that additional port. So for now, it's not really useful. It's for our automatic systems where the CNC controller can actually trigger either the tool changing port or something else. So that's something else. When you're set up at home, just push this into the barb. You may need those little pipe clamps. 2 of those come with your chiller. You may need to put that, once you put the superthane into this hose, you may need to use that barb to kind of tighten it down so that there's no leaking involved, or a zip tie or something like that would work perfectly fine. That's what's included in this kit. Now I believe my tubing, I think I got one of this. We always have an extra whenever we're cutting these things. We get this tubing, we used to get it on 100-foot lengths, but now we get it on like 1,000-foot lengths of spools, and we cut the distance that we need for each customer's order. This is an off-cut, so it's really short compared to the one that would come with your system. But I knew I wasn't running it through cable chain, but when I go to upgrade my cable chains, I will probably have to get longer tubes so that it can actually come out this cable chain right here, out and down into the chiller. But I'm just going to hook everything up, push it back into place, make sure most of the tube comes right out here and is right in the back so that it has enough room to move around the bed. Now, if I were to kick that on now, there it goes. I can actually see the tubing start to fill up with coolant. There goes the air lines, all that stuff. The fan's kicked on, gets a little loud there, sort of loud. And then I can actually see. Now you can get, if you wanted to, from Amazon, you can get some of those flow indicators. It's a little spinny device that sits in line, so you basically snip this someplace along the way, push that into both sides, and then you can actually see something spinning inside so you know that it's working. The neat thing about these chillers is it tells you the temperature of the coolant right there on the face. It also has flow detectors. So if the flow ever stops, and here I can actually demonstrate that. Get ready for a loud noise, because when I disconnect one of these coolant connectors, it's not going to be able to flow, and therefore an alarm is going to kick off. So I just unplugged it. There it goes. Something's not flowing. So let's put that tube connector back in, and now we've got proper flow. So this thing will protect you if you've got it, if you don't need anything, well, therefore you don't need anything visual if you don't want it. Okay, there are 2 more things that need to be done. I have got the other hose. This is the larger hose with the press-on quick connector. So this larger hose, if we take our pneumatics enclosure, you can see that on one side, on the right side, we've got the air in. That's where this guy goes. So I'm going to take my hose, just press it right into the, it's a press-on connector. And then of course I'm going to be adding power here in just a second. So I'm going to take the other end of this hose and run it right into my air compressor. Now my air compressor is already on. It's already charged up to 90 or so PSI, about 95 or so PSI. And here is the hose. I'm just going to leave it hanging there. I'll come back later and clean that up. But yeah, we've got our compressor, we've got our chiller, we've got our pneumatics enclosure. Here's actually the AC port for this. The pneumatics enclosure can be powered by either 220 or 110. All you've got to do is just snip off the end of this 110. This is the cable that comes with it. It comes with a 110 plug. If you've got 220 only, and that's the only option you have, snip this off, go to your local hardware store, and wire up a 220 plug for your need. It is an auto switching power supply inside of that pneumatics enclosure. This is my PE. So on the right side, I've got AC power and air inlet. On the other side, so far, I've only got my dust and tool air outputs. What we're going to do next is we're going to take this little guy. This is our run safety wire. So it's basically a 2-pin wire, a GX12 2-pin. We're going to run it right into the run port. There's a port called run on there. I'm going to run that there. Here I have my MTC button. It has a pretty long cable on it, depending on how you need to run this. but you're going to want to put this part into a convenient location on your machine. Either hang it on a hook. This is a 3D printed part, so this can be removed, and you can install this into a base panel if you'd like, depending on how you want to customize your machine. But we try to make sure that we enable you by making it easy to kind of pull this off, put it into a machine. It's just a simple screw-in barrel style button, but that's it. So on the other side is a GX12 3-pin connector, and that goes just above, on the left side of the pneumatics enclosure, just above the run port. And we're going to put in this spindle port. This is the cable that goes to the goes through the cable chain up to the spindle motor. I'm going to leave this unplugged since I'm not currently using the vacuum right now, but I am going to plug in my braking resistor. And lastly, so I'll throw that over there. That's our little run port. Where's my power? Here's my power. I'm going to plug my power into the right side, and it's going to automatically turn on. Now over here on the this side here, we're going to need our run port, which is the GX12 2-pin. That's going to be up here on the top. Plug that in. For now, I'm just going to use this as in manual mode, a full complete manual mode. We'll come back later and I will install grab a video of installing the automatic control so that the machine can control the RPMs of the motor. But for now, we're just going to use it in manual mode, which basically means I'm going to hit run, stop, and turn the dial right here to determine how fast it goes. Now that we've got this plugged in, we've got our MTC plugged in, our pneumatics enclosure. I'm going to turn that on. There's no visual indicator that it's on except for a little red light through the top vent area, but you can see that as well. And that's it. That's all we've got to do. That's what we need for manual tool changing. So take one of our tool holders, take a collet, we're just setting it down into place. These are unlike the ER collets where you snap the collet into the nut. On the ATC, you just put it in and you twist them together. We're going to do that to all of them, and I'm going to set this 1/8 inch aside because we've got, I believe it's IDC has sent us one of their 1/8 inch bits, so we're going to use it for that. All the rest of these bits that come with your ATC system is 1/4 inch. So if you want to use them all in tool holders so you don't have to change, basically do this step right here, then you'll want to grab a couple extra collets. So collets are already in here, so we are good to go. So let's start with our 1/8. So we're going to take the bit out. I'm going to try to keep everything together. I think I need to come up with some sort of 3D printed holder for these so that I know which bit is in which holder. So I'm going to loosen this up, put the bit down in just a bit. It doesn't matter at this point. We're going to take one of the wrenches, slide it into the little groove here. We're going to take the other wrench, slide it into the groove on the nut, and now we're just going to tighten them up. There we go. We have got All right, there's the Ginny. Now, the hardest part I'm going to have is keeping track of these. So we've got our bit, or I'm sorry, our MTC button. We have our bit. This is the Roughing the Beast bit again. This is with our ATC motor. Just push this button. A bunch of air will be spitting out. The tool change drawbar will be released. And basically I can push this up in there, release the button, and then the tool won't come out. So push this on, push this in, let go of the button, and let go of the tool holder. So hold the holder like this with one hand, push the button with the other, and let it go. It is that simple. The button is lit up, and the button is active. Now, if I hit run on the VFD and it is in not blinking, you'll notice that my LED light is no longer lit up, giving a visual indication as to when this button is active and when it is not. Hit stop on there, and now the button's active again, and now it works. Thanks guys for sticking around. This is an installation of our PwnCNC ATC onto the Shapeoko 5. When it's installed on the Shapeoko 5, since its controller isn't smart enough to control it automatically, we're using it in manual mode. So you can keep your carvings going as fast as possible, preparing all of your bits in ahead of time so you can easily swap them out to release and install bits, so that swapping out bits is super easy. You will still need to use your tool setter and all that whenever you're swapping out the bits. The controller can't handle the changing of bits. It still has to re-register that Z position of the bit. This gives a few second bit changes on your Carbide machines, which is just awesome. Assuming your Carbide machine can handle it, you probably want the HDZ. If you've got like a Shapeoko 3 or a 4 or the Shapeoko Pro, you're going to want the HDZ on there in order to handle this additional weight, because the ATC motor is very heavy. But it's here. We're here to help you out. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Reach out to me or the entire team behind me with questions, comments over at support@PwnCNC.com. We're happy to help. And yeah, don't just own your CNC, dominate it. I do a little twist and a wiggle there. Oops, I think. Oh, well, that's nice. I hit the emergency stop on my machine.